When I was younger, I didn't live with who I live with now. I live with my biological mom in New York. So I didn't really live with her, but I was like 8 and I was staying with my biological mom. And she had a lot of issues with substance abuse. That's like kind of what, like the highlight reel of like what my biological mom is to me, is like substance abuse and remembering like the backseat of her car being filled with like beer cans and things of that nature. And that was really hard because obviously at 8, I didn't really like process what was going on or anything like that. And actually, while her roommate was there, I was supposed to wake him up from his nap for his work, and he had overdosed upstairs. And I couldn't open the door. It was like a whole thing because he like fell and passed out in front of the door. But he died because of that. And I think that the reason why I remember that so well is because something my friend Hadessa said is that in your most traumatic moments is when Jesus is with you and walking with you and holding your hand. And I think that's one of the reasons why I remember that so well. But it wasn't just like I was 8 and then I just magically thought of that and Jesus was holding my hand, and ever since then I was with him. It was more or so, that was something I didn't understand at the time. And as I started to grow older and even get into high school, I started to develop emotions and understanding what was going on. And at first it was more like hatred, disappointment, upset, resentment, things like that. And just overall, I mean, kind of not fair to my mom and not really the person that I ever really wanted to be. And so soon after that, at Sunset Middle School, I actually started going to the village church, and I kind of got my first taste of who Jesus is. And there's never been kind of like a person who was kind and compassionate and all of the things that were good bundled up in one. And it kind of felt like that was the opposite of who I was at the time, because I was so full of like resentment and negative emotions and mostly just towards my biological mother, but that always, as it seems to do, like bleeds out into the rest of the world and the people that I was immediately surrounded by. And I think that as soon as I got that first taste of someone who was so like compassionate and kind and understanding and forgiving, it was kind of like that's who I wanted to be. And I decided that then. So one thing, and everyone struggles with that, like everyone has feelings of hatred and resentment. I think one of the big things for me, especially now that I'm in high school, like kind of getting over that, or like simple things, like I said, it would bleed into my life. Like driving, I talk about this a lot. Like driving, if there's someone in front of me going pretty slow, I'm starting to get frustrated, I'm getting mad, you know, like a lot of different thoughts pop into my head. But I kind of remember Jesus and who he is as a person and how that's who I want to be. So I make up like different scenarios in my head for him. Like, oh, maybe they have a cake in the backseat for their son's like 5th birthday party. Or maybe they are on their way, or if like someone speeds past me, maybe they're on the way to the hospital because one of their kids is like injured. And I think about like that forgiving nature and that kind of holding that space for love and kindness like through Jesus. Like it really made me a vessel for his kind of purpose in different people's lives, and seeing his purpose in my life to make me go through hard things as a child has made me much more kind of emotionally mature and understanding of like other people and understanding of myself, and kind of being able to allow myself to choose forgiveness in a lot of different situations. Now, obviously, I'm a lot better off. I don't really see her anymore. I didn't really have I've never had like a father figure either in my life. So kind of Jesus filled that hole. I think after the first time I had an encounter with Jesus, it was kind of like a wanting more kind of thing. So surrounding myself with people who are looking for the same things, whether that be through like school clubs like FCA or Young Life, or that be here like at church or like working in the nursery, or I think being with people who want the same things as you and are chasing the same thing, like chasing Jesus' love and chasing that forgiveness and all the great things that he is something that I surrounded myself with, because I never wanted to be a product of my initial environment. And I think that especially growing up, I don't think now I'm as moldable as I was, but it's like I'm trying to think of like a good analogy, but like it's like being a piece of clay, and it's like, who do I want to mold me? And I wanted it to be Jesus, and I wanted it to be people who surround themselves with Jesus, who are able to think in the same mindset as he would, and not in one that I would have formerly. After connecting with Jesus in a way, something I still struggle with is like kind of just everyday stuff where I'm feeling negative emotions, when I'm feeling sad, just kind of like taking that on other people instead of like resolving that within myself. I feel like I have gotten a lot better about that, like with the car thing. But I think it's just sometimes hard. You can't always walk the same path as someone else. And that's important to remember when you want to be someone who is just like Jesus and you want to think like what would Jesus do. Just after that encounter, I always want to make sure I'm being mindful and considerate and thinking before I act. I'm Parker Nunnery, and that's my story.